Today we're going to consider 2 nominees, 2 bills, and 8 General Service Administration resolutions. Senator Carper and I have agreed that we will begin voting at 9:30. At that time, I'm going to call up the items on the agenda. We won't debate the items on the agenda while we're voting. Instead, we'll begin debating the items of the agenda before we begin voting, and I'll be happy to recognize any member who still wishes to speak after voting concludes. We'll consider 2 nominations, Aurelia Skipwith to be the Director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and Katherine Lemos to be the member of and chairperson of the Chemical Safety and Hazard Investigation Board. The full committee held a hearing on both nominees earlier this month. Ms. Skipwith's nomination to be Director of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services has received bipartisan praise from more than 80 groups and individuals, including the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, the Union Sportsmen's Alliance, the Boone and Crockett Club's Conservation Policy Committee, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the American Farm Bureau Federation, the presidents of Howard and Purdue Universities, the president and CEO of the Martin Luther King Jr. National Memorial, and a coalition of 28 sportsmen and conservation groups. Senator Carper and I have agreed that we'll begin voting as I've described. We also had Congressman William Lacey Clay, who represents Missouri's 1st Congressional District based in St. Louis, who was here to deliver a resounding endorsement of Ms. Skipwith when he introduced her at the nomination hearing. Congressman Clay testified, "To state the facts plainly, Ms. Skipwith is one of the most talented, hardest working, and driven persons I have ever known." He noted, if confirmed, Aurelia Skipwith will become the first African American to head the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. This is a historical nomination. Dr. Lemos' nomination to be member of the chairperson of the Chemical Safety and Hazard Investigation Board has been endorsed by the former Executive Director and current Deputy Executive Director of the Federal Aviation Administration's Accident Investigation and Prevention Office, and Mark Chapman, a Boeing 787 pilot who's a former chair of several aviation safety committees on the Airline Pilots Association. Professor Mesquiti, an engineering and aviation safety professor at the University of Southern California, who has worked with the Chemical Safety and Hazard Investigation Board since its inception, wrote of Dr. Lemos, "I strongly believe that Dr. Lemos is an embodiment of professional excellence in accident investigation, whose impeccable technical credentials and leadership experience are an invaluable asset for the U.S. Chemical Safety Board." Confirming Dr. Lemos is a priority, in December of this year, the Chemical Safety Board will be down to 1 member. Calling the administration to fill both the current and the future vacancies at the agency, we cannot allow the agency to lose its quorum. Today we'll also consider 2 bills as 2260, Senator Sullivan and Senator Whitehouse's Save Our Seas 2.0, Improving Domestic Infrastructure to Prevent Marine Debris Act, with a substitute amendment, and S. 2099, Senator Kramer's White Horse Hill National Game Preserve designation area. The Save Our Seas Act addresses the important issue of plastic pollution in our oceans. The bill supports increased scientific research to better understand and address the root causes of plastic pollution, both here in the United States and around the world. It improves our waste management system, particularly with regard to recycling infrastructure. The White Horse Hill National Game Preserve Designation Act redesignates Sully's Hill National Game Preserve as the White Horse Hill National Game Preserve. Administered by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the preserve is located within the Spirit Lake Indian Reservation near Devil's Lake, North Dakota. The Spirit Lake tribe has requested the preserve be renamed White Horse Hill, which is its traditional Dakota name. Lastly, we'll also consider 8 resolutions to approve prospectuses providing for GSA leases. I urge my colleagues to support passage of each of the nominees, bills, and resolutions we're considering today. I'd now like to turn to Ranking Member Carper.